With their adaptation of Moon Knight, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is starting to take a dark turn, with avid MCU fans eager to find out what lies ahead for the supernatural vigilante, especially with the show's newfound fame. Moon Knight Season 2 might become the biggest show on Disney Plus after its release. In this video, we'll talk about Moon Knight Season 2 and how it could handle things better than Season 1. Let's dive in. First up, Moon Knight is on his way back. Oscar Isaac, the star of Moon Knight, hinted that his Marvel hero might return sooner rather than later during a panel discussion at the New York Comic-Con. When asked if Season 2 of the Disney Plus series is in the works, the actor responded that Season 1 is not the last we've heard of the system that is Moon Knight. This came after Isaac previously hinted that the team would be working in Cairo in Season 2 of the show, though it was unclear how serious the actor was at the time. The primary writer of the show, Jeremy Slater, had a similar viewpoint when discussing the possibility of a Season 2 with Inverse, saying that the Moon Knight story is definitely not done. He said that everything is in service of the greater good, but is the Moon Knight going to be a friend? Is he a foe? Slater believed that those are all incredibly intriguing questions for anyone who's going to take charge. The intriguing premise that the Moon Knight's narrative is undoubtedly not over seems to apply to whoever gets to narrate the next Moon Knight tale, whether that's Slater himself or someone else. Moving on to 2. What we know about Season 2. The first season of the Disney Plus series Moon Knight came to a close more than 5 months ago. For those of you who don't know, the show centers around Stephen Grant, a dissociative identity disorder patient who shares a body with the ruthless mercenary Marc Spector. Unfortunately, despite the show's second season being hinted at by both creator Mohamed Diab and actor Oscar Isaac, it still hasn't been formally announced. But reports are circulating that Isaac has stated that his character will appear more frequently in the future, which automatically confirms a season renewal. At New York Comic-Con, Isaac addressed the crowd about his experience working on the show and described how, before the casting, he had multiple long conversations with Kevin Feige to figure out what role was his perfect fit. At the end of it all, it's quite exciting to see that Isaac has confirmed that his character will continue to appear after Moon Knight, though he remained vague on whether these appearances will be in a second season or if we'll have to wait a little longer. So, while it's pretty clear that Mark and Steven will appear in the MCU, the finer details are yet to be revealed. Next up, when are things kicking off? The burning question in the minds of many MCU fans is if Moon Knight will receive the Loki treatment and be allowed to return for a second season. Although nothing has been confirmed in writing as of yet, the situation certainly seems to be pointing in that direction. As Moon Knight pushes us to accept chaos, Marvel is now being urged to follow suit by fans of the show. That's because Disney has only ordered Moon Knight as a limited series or a one-time agreement as things stand right now. Could that change though? Interestingly enough, an official tweet explaining the trailer for Season 1's finale initially used the phrase series finale, Moon Knight Season 2 potential release date, before replacing it with season finale. Now, one may very easily read between the lines in Oscar Isaac's speech and conclude that he is concealing something. He may not be outright denying like Andrew Garfield, but he's obviously dancing around the fact that he very well knows when Moon Knight will next appear in the cosmos. The one thing to consider from this is if Isaac's referring to Season 2 or the character making an appearance somewhere in the MCU when he says that his character's journey isn't over. And as we talked about earlier, there are many scenarios in which Isaac's hero may make a lot of sense, but it appears that he is referring to Moon Knight Season 2 in this case. Followed by, will Season 2 address the big problem? Moon Knight had to deal with a unique and challenging situation at the start of the show. The showrunners had to depict a grim, gritty superhero narrative, but it also had to accurately depict dissociative identity disorder in a way that didn't further stigmatize a topic that pop culture has already struggled to portray compassionately and accurately. While accurately demonstrating how DID functions, Season 1 managed to nonetheless sensationalize the illness. Oscar Isaac previously made a statement on a potential Moon Knight Season 2 release. His statements contained a hint that the show's creators had done their homework this time and should have handled mental health better in the first season. Don't get us wrong, they did an amazing job, but hey, there's always room for improvement. As we already mentioned, Season 1 wasn't the last we saw Moon Knight. Although Marc Spector, Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley could resurface in future Marvel crossover projects, it would be wonderful to see an improvement in how DID is represented and treated throughout the course of the show. This does not necessarily imply that there will be a Moon Knight Season 2. However, the Season 1 finale did give a clue that there may be more, and if there is a second season, it seems like it might be more realistic to the details of dissociative identity disorder. Isaac called the character a system, which is what therapists and patients with DID call all of their numerous personalities, also known as alters. Let's talk about who the alters really are. People might declare that they have more than one identity by using the word alters. Similar to the neurological or cardiovascular systems, it is a system in which several components cooperate to accomplish a single objective. The objective in this situation is to get through daily life. These characteristics were present in Moon Knight as Mark and Steven had to cooperate to overcome Arthur Harrow. Although mental health is hardly a new topic for the MCU to tackle, Moon Knight is perhaps the first time we have seen it addressed so directly. Wanda Maximoff, for instance, exhibits symptoms of PTSD after losing vision, and in WandaVision and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we witness her struggle and act out. Although the depiction of her struggles was true to a T, her illness was never given a name. So, for the first time, a character's diagnosis was a crucial aspect of who they were in Moon Knight, and things are only expected to get better from here onwards. Isaac's remarks suggest that Moon Knight will continue to work to demonstrate how individuals with DID are just trying to live their lives. This is why we do get a Season 2. Coming back to a potential release date for Season 2, the sad news is that a second season will probably not debut for at least a few years if Moon Knight isn't merely a phase. Why? Well, because Moon Knight will have to wait in line behind all the other new and returning shows that are planned to debut on Disney+. Sadly, just because the show was a massive hit with the fans doesn't mean that the network is going to switch up timelines. Honestly speaking, we get it, but we really do hope it comes out sooner than later. Lastly, what does Season 2 have in store? It's difficult to guess where the story of Moon Knight is headed simply because the show is so different from anything else that Marvel Studios has released before. Jake Lockley, the third main Moon Knight character, finally makes an appearance in the post-credits scene at the end of Season 1, so we anticipate that he'll play a significant part going forward. But does he support or oppose the other alters? The answer to that still remains a mystery. But one thing's for sure, Jake is clearly not someone you'll want to mess with, as implied by the Season 1 finale's shot. Moving forward, a few passing references to iconic comic book villains like Bushman would be great. We really wouldn't be surprised if Moon Knight and possibly Layla as Tararet's superheroic new avatar just started appearing in other MCU stories in its place going forward, given the show's mixed critical reception and limited runtime. And that might be very intriguing because depending on the author at hand, Moon Knight can be molded into a variety of various styles just like Batman. Therefore, depending on his mood that day, we may readily envisage the Fist of Khonshu engaging in combat alongside everyday heroes like Daredevil, as well as with or against the Avengers. Director of Moon Knight, Mohamed Diab, admitted after the series finale that he's still unsure of the show's future direction. He has no idea what will happen, but does know that the Moon Knight's here to stay. Anyways, that's a wrap for today's video. Do you believe we'll get a Season 2? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed. With that said, see you in the next one. Peace.